Here's the one thing you need to remember about being your authentic self as an entrepreneur. So, as a therapist, people come and they tell me all about their backgrounds, their life, their secrets, everything that they wouldn't tell their spouses, their friends, and some of the people that they hold near and dear to their heart. So, I'm very privileged in that sense because everything is confidential with me. And in the midst of hearing all these stories, all these secrets, people tend to tell me where they get their information. And in the midst of hearing this information, I started to see a trend. I started to see a trend that people were taking the things that experts say, gurus say, and they'll treat it as if it's the Holy Bible, it's the Holy Scripture, or it's the gospel, if you will. And what I tend to see is that people fall victim to what's right rather than what's helpful or what's right for them and their values and their path. And they start to become hoodwinked into thinking that this is the right way because an expert has said it. Now, there's a great book called Influence that I'm reading. And one thing that it talks about is how the mind loves to take shortcuts to come across conclusions. And the mind needs to do that because if it is ever in danger, meaning if you are ever in danger, you need a quick way to come across a solution in order to get out of harm's way. So if someone walks into a mall and they start shooting, or you just hear a loud bang, you need to know where the exit is and not where the next discount sweater is, if you will. So the mind, again, it needs to make shortcuts. Now, the problem with this is that, again, when you see or when the mind sees someone that's on a big platform, someone that has a lot of money, or someone that has a lot of followers, right? Someone that we deem as an expert, we tend to take the things that they say as being true, and we don't take time to fact check it or to see if it's right for us. And as a result, people are led by bad advice. People are led by bad guidance. One can say this is where, I think it's in the Bible, they say the blind leading the blind. And as a therapist, I read a lot about psychology. I know a lot about mental health and how the mind works. So when I hear things, right, that a guru may say, I'm not going to say any names, I first think, wow, like if this person follows this advice, it's going to lead them down a path of destruction, a path of sadness, or a path of hopelessness, right? Like all this stuff. And again, like the issues that they hear from someone that's an expert, or they heard a really great story about how it helped them and they think this is for them. And that's one of the issues that I see. And that's why I'm so passionate about getting my message out there, because I know it's going to help people that may be following bad advice. Now, how does this help you with becoming more authentic and being your true self? I need you as an entrepreneur to think about who would you be serving, right? Think about who you would be serving if you put your message out there in this real authentic way. Because at this moment, there's a group of people that's suffering, and they've been suffering for a long time because they haven't heard your message. And this message may be in a YouTube video, a podcast, an Instagram post, whatever it is that you can name, you name it. And I need you to step outside of yourself and not be so selfish. And I say that word specifically, selfish, because when people come to me about social anxiety, when people come to me about feeling fear about putting their message out there, I'm like, dude or lady, right? It's not about you. It's about the people that you serve. Because one could say that whether it's God, whether it's the universe, whether it's Allah, whoever you believe, even your parents, someone has given you this skill. Someone has given you this valuable thing, and it's not meant for you just to hold on to. It's meant for you to take and give to everybody else that's in the world. You're supposed to go out there and just share it. Give, give, give. Don't ask for anything in return. Because the thing is, if you give and give and give, people will feel indebted to you, and then they will give back to you, and you get everything that you want. So how do you be your authentic self? You have to find something that's more valuable than the fear that you have of being judged. When you do that, it makes it easier to let go of this thing that you've been holding on to. Now, all the greats, okay, and when I say the greats, I mean people that have these big images, right? So I could say Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whatever fence of that you're on. I could say, what's the guy on the podcast that was on Fear Factor? His name was Rogan, Joe Rogan, right? Joe Rogan, Andrew Tate, some of these other guys that have these big personalities, these big platforms. A lot of them, they have their fans, but then also they have their enemies. They have people that don't like them, can't stand for them, and they wish the absolute worst for them. But yet these people are still considered successful, still have an audience that's willing to listen to them. Now, if I was in those positions, and I can only assume, but if I was in those positions, I wouldn't be too worried about trying to turn a critic into a fan. Why? Because I already have my fan base. People, as you will learn, people will live and die by their word, by their beliefs. And for me or for you to spend any time trying to change their minds right? You'll be doing yourself a disservice because now you're not focused on your audience. Believe me when I say that's the beautiful thing about niching down, because there's going to be a subset of group of people that's going to find your message attractive, and they're going to hang on to your every last word. And if you don't believe me, you could think back to the story. It's not even a story. This is real, about the history of this guy named Jim Jones. Jim Jones was a guy, whether it's in South America, Central America, or maybe, I don't think it was in like Africa or anything, but this guy was basically the leader of a cult, and it got to the point where he was able to convince, I think it was hundreds, maybe even thousands of people to drink poisonous Kool-Aid. Like it was Kool-Aid laced with poison. All of these people drunk it and killed themselves just simply because this guy told them. Think about that. If one man could convince thousands of people to take their own life, you can convince people to your way of thinking, especially if it's going to naturally help them. If you have good intentions, I want you to start putting yourself out there, because again, someone has blessed you with this gift, and you be doing them also a disservice for not sharing the information that you've been taught, if you will. So what I want you to do is find something more valuable than your fear, but then also focus on the people that you're called to serve, and then focus on the problems that they've been suffering with. And I want you to give to them, because it's more important that you give than to hold on to this fear of not being judged. Take that with you, and let's see how your message starts to grow. This is Coach Wells. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And again, subscribe to it so you can get all the gems like this in the future.